Podcasts. That's right. Today is the Easy SEO and More podcast, and I'm going to talk to you today about podcasts. I've been going over the 5 ways to do content marketing in 2022. Now, we took a break last week and had an interview with Toby Younis of the Messages and Methods podcast, another podcast. And that actually, I'm glad that I did that because in the talk that we had, he talked a lot about what businesses need to do to really grow in 2022. Go and listen to that podcast. That'll be portbell.com/61 if you go there, or listen to it on your favorite podcast player, or even go to YouTube. That one is actually, that's the first interview that I've done that's on YouTube. Today, I want to talk to you about podcasts. It's the number 2 way, or it's number 2 in my 5 ways of doing content marketing in 2022. These aren't in order of importance, although number 1 next week is the most important. This isn't the second most important. It's just another great way to do content marketing in 2022. And there's 2 ways of doing podcasts. You can do a podcast yourself, just like I do the Easy SEO and More podcast, or you could interview on other people's podcasts. Whichever way you do it, though, you want to find out if you can get a transcript of the podcast. This is more important if you're going to be on somebody else's podcast. Get a transcript of their podcast or ask them to transcribe it and ask them if you can copy it and use it on your website or your blog. More than likely it would be your blog. And of course, link to them because you'll link to their podcast with your transcript. Their podcast will link to you. You've got that cross-linking going on, and that is amazing for the search engines. They love that kind of thing. But if you're going to interview with somebody else, whether you interview with them or you do your own podcast, you still want to make sure to try to find the right keywords to use. And those keywords are the keywords for your target audience. That's going to be huge. I'll talk more about keywords next week, but I've also done episodes specifically on keywords in the past. But here's the big thing. Let's say the internet worked actually 10 times better than it does today. And every video that's out there actually gets transcribed perfectly by Google or Bing or Yahoo or whoever it might be. And every podcast that's out there gets transcribed perfectly. When they're transcribing those podcasts, what are they doing? They're turning them into text. When you get on your cell phone, mobile phone, whatever you want to call it, and you speak into it and you say, give me directions to 123, or give me directions to home from here, or whatever it might be, that phone is transcribing what you say to text. Everything on the internet gets transcribed to text. The thing is currently it's not perfect, so they don't use it. But even when they do use it, they're transcribing everything to text. So when you do your podcasts, transcribe them. Each of my podcasts gets transcribed to my website, and it helps with our search engine rankings. So you don't have to do your own podcast. You can start interviewing on other people's podcasts if you want, but try to get a transcription of the text of that podcast so that you can use it on your website as well. I'm Dr. Ty. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Easy SEO and More. Do me a favor. You know a business person that could benefit from this information. Share this episode with them. I greatly appreciate it. You take care. I'll talk to you next week with the number 1 way to do content marketing in 2022.